What's the deal?
I don't know. I don't know if everything's firmed up for that, but I would love to go. Well, let me rephrase this. I do not love to go to LA. I don't think that I will like LA, but I would be happy to go to LA Book Fest next year should I be free.
Yes, yes. I was really jealous just watching everyone just enjoy all the bookish festivities. I was like, oh, mm,
Yeah, I mean, Jess
oh.
and I were talking a while back about because I guess there's a whole thing. By the way, we're live. Hello, everybody. Um,
Hi.
we were talking about the Denver Readers Take Denver and that whole mess,
Yeah, I've seen little
and
things about that.
and we were talking about how there really aren't a lot of like book cons, book fairs, and how remember there was the book con, and then because of the
Yeah.
personal panini,
It went away.
it went away, and because I remember I had tickets for that, and I was so excited to go,
Yeah.
and Jesus was less than excited to go, but I was very excited to go, and
Mm-hmm.
then they said they were never bringing it back, and
Right, which was
I
like
never
plot
got to
twist,
go to
right?
one, and I think
Yeah.
it's so weird because with Book Talk and the way Book Talk is, you would think that they would be all over something like
I know. It's really
BookCon.
strange. And it's crazy because that had been going on for several years. So to
Years,
just like kibosh it all of a sudden, it's like, wow, I wonder what was truly driving that decision.
there has
Because
to be
I
more
don't think it was
behind
the
that.
personal panini. I don't think it was that.
Where are the investigative journalists?
Who's on the case? Who's
Somebody needs
on the
to
case?
find this out. What really
Yeah.
happened to BookCon?
Seriously. It had to
Dramatic
be other
music.
things that have been going on for some time that really drove that decision. I'm
Something.
kind of still
Something.
curious about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know. But yes, if I can swing LA Book Fest next year, we should
We're
go.
going. Yes. I'm just putting it in the atmosphere and yeah, putting
I
out
mean,
the good
in
juju.
all honesty, I only really need like a few days off. So I don't even
Yeah.
necessarily need to take a full week.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I could swing it.
Yes. Swing it, sister.
But anyway, that's not what we're here for.
I
So
am
we are,
amped up today.
yeah, you are. I don't know where I am. My arthritis is pretty bad today because it's rainy here, so I'm a little bit dulled.
That'll do it.
Um, but we're here to talk about our March and April pick, the Discomfort of Evening. But before we
What
go
a
into
discomfort it
that,
was.
it's a book, and
It's a
I've read it
book.
twice now. And but first we're gonna do our current reads. So what are you currently reading? On
Well,
this last day of April, what are you rounding the month out with?
um, well, not the book that I'm going to talk about right now. Uh, so this is a disappointing, a slightly disappointing read.
Oh no.
So yeah, it was. I was very excited about it. So last weekend, I finished Thirst
Oh, you
by
didn't like
Marina.
it?
I didn't love it.
Okay.
I didn't love it, and I'll get into it. So, Thirst by Marina. I listened to how to pronounce this lady's last name, and it has gone away from my brain. Anyway, it's translated from the Spanish, I believe, by Heather Cleary. So Thirst, a story about two women. One is a vampire, one isn't. And we opened with the vampire and her story of how she was with a sister of vampires and they were all murdered, and she flees to another part of the world to kind of live her life in solitude. And in another timeline or storyline, we've got a woman who is dealing with her ailing mother and also um, with motherhood. And as we get further into the book, we finally get to the part where these two women meet and, begin this love affair.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first saw this book in the email that we get from, the publishers, look, it sounded like it was right up my alley. I was very excited. I've been very much in the vampire novels lately. I was so psyched. The story itself is good. My issue is the pacing was like very off to me. Um, I just felt like we were going along at a snail's pace for no reason. The other issue that I had was it felt like the writing was trying to get me to see and feel the lust and desire that these two women had for one another, but it never really came across that way to me. It's like, oh, we're almost there. Oh, sorry, close, but it's not it. It never really got there. It always felt like I was left unsatisfied.
So it's
And
just
that was throughout
edging you the whole time.
just but you know what, not even like edging me in a way where I'm getting built up on the inside with anticipation of what's getting ready to happen between these two women. So and that was just throughout the whole book. And then I think it's going somewhere. I'm waiting for this crescendo, and it just never happens. It
Hmm.
just never gets there. And so, I don't know if that is the writing or the translation, but it just left me with like a dry mouth, you know? So I was very disappointed by that. But if anyone else has read this, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Again, didn't hate it. You know what I mean? Like the story is good, but those two things really kind of took me out of it. So yeah, that's Thirst. So thought I was gonna love it, but I didn't. And here we are.
That's a bummer. That's such a
It
bummer.
was.
Because I know you were really excited for that
I
one.
really, I really, really was. I really, really was. Hopefully
Well,
you're gonna share something that you loved.
I am nearly done. I'm gonna end the month with Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb,
Oh,
First in the
hello.
Live Ship Traders. I am loving this book. Totally different vibe from Farseer, which I knew was gonna happen, but like I didn't know how different. There's like little things that feel like I'm starting to see how all these different worlds in the realm of Elderling maybe have little connections, but it's too early to know that. But like there's little things where I'm going, oh, maybe X, Y, and Z. But basically, I don't even know how to describe this. So this is set in a place called Bingtown. There's a couple other
Hmm.
places. It's very like sailors, seaworthy, traders, pirates, all of that vibe. Um, there's a whole thing with this magic wizard wood and live ships where the most elite ship you could have if you were a
Yeah.
trader is a live ship, and it's this ship that like you basically give 3 generations to, and that basically die and become part of this ship, and it's like the masthead of the ship is after 3 generations it like comes to life and it has like sentience. And
What?
yeah, it's
That's what's
really
going
cool.
on.
It's really cool.
Oh
So
my
that
goodness.
that's kind
Okay.
of like the backdrop of all of this. So you've got like that kind of going on. You have pirates, you have slavery, you have these like people, I think they're in like the rain wilds or there's like sort of mysterious people that you kind of make the traders deal with. There's a lot of different people in this story. Obviously, like, it's a book. There's a lot of people in this world.
Wow.
It's very
Okay.
interesting. It's very fun. The women are really interesting in this. There's the daughter. So we're following like one particular trader family in particular. That's a lot of particulars, Alyssa. There's one particular trader family that we're following. Um, and they don't have a son, and the ship should go to a son, but they kind of loop through to a grandson and do all this stuff so that like the boat can come alive and they can continue sailing and all this stuff. So there's like these sisters, and there's one sister who really wants to be the one who takes the ship, but she can't take the ship because she's a girl. The other sister is married to this guy who's a douche. The ladies have like all these kind of like back dealings. There's like a little bit of intrigue with like the way the women sort of run things from the background, which is interesting to see. It's a lot, and I love it, like a lot in all the good ways.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I am very excited. I do think that like I wasn't prepared for how much slavery was going to center in this. So sometimes
Uh-huh.
it's just really awful um watching just the disregard for human life,
Yeah.
um which obviously is not something that you could really avoid when you're talking about slavery, but it is hard to read because like you'll be
Right.
wrapped up in all the fun of like the magic and the intrigue and the little bits of romance, and then you're reminded of the cruelty of this world as well, and
Mm.
it's really well done. I really love Hub. I don't know why it took me so long, but I'm here now and I love
That's
this.
so
And
fantastic.
I'm almost done. Like I have, I don't know, like 100 and something pages left, which I'm going to finish that tonight before the day is out so I can wrap up my April reads. But
Yeah.
yes, so
Oh,
really
that's
excited for this.
fantastic. I love
Um,
it.
Me too.
That's great.
Yeah, I am not
Um,
disappointed. Can I tell you two things? Oh, but you want to go first?
no, you go, and I'll tell you my thing after you tell me your thing.
Okay, two things. First, I attempted to get a EARC of private rights and was summarily rejected.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
moderately bitter about it.
Wow.
And
Okay.
two, we watched one episode, but we started watching A Gentleman in Moscow
Ooh.
last
Okay.
night. So we're going to keep watching that.
Okay.
What?
I'm not loving it.
Oh, I've only watched one. I was fine. I was crying.
I only watched one too, and I'm not loving it. And I'm
Why?
like, oh, I don't know. I'm just not into it. I'm just not into it. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to continue watching just to see if my mind changes. I mean, I'm not going to make a flat out decision on whether to continue not after one episode, but I mean, I'm not thrilled. I'm not excited about the show.
Oh,
Interesting
I
though, right?
enjoyed it. I thought it doesn't quite capture the same enjoyment that I had when reading the book, but I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it does a really good job so far of showing the brutality of life in Russia post-revolution,
Mhm.
for basically, well, I mean, obviously very much anybody who was at some point aristocratic, 'cause that's where we're centering in book 1, but really anyone could be considered,
Yeah.
you know, criminal in some capacity.
Yeah.
I thought the hotel was very interesting. There are some characters kind of missing, or some bits of character interaction that's missing. That is a little shame. Like every time he has dinner, I want more of the like banter between him and the people that
Mhm.
work in the restaurant, and we don't really get that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to go through in this, so I mean things have to be cut here and there. My really big complaint is that I don't know why everybody has to have a British accent, and that's just like a general problem whenever we do things set in non-natively English speaking countries,
Right.
why we almost always have somebody with a British accent. Like I don't know why you couldn't have found like Russian or Eastern European or Slavic or any other kind of actor who could maybe have had a more natural
Mhm.
accent. I mean, or just I'm sure Ewan McGregor could do an
Yeah.
accent. Like I don't know. It always feels weird for everybody to suddenly be British.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. I have a lot of shows as usual. I have a lot of shows, in my queue that I'm watching. So
Is that what you wanted to tell me?
no, what I wanted to tell you
Oh,
was I have never ever wanted to read Rushdie, but I do want to read Knife.
Knife. Yeah, Knife
I
looks really
really, really
good.
do. Like, I think I'm gonna like spend real money on it and buy it.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. hmm I've heard some really good. There were a couple of two different podcasts that I was listening to, and they
I
were
saw Poured
talking
Over
about
did it.
yeah. And I was like, oh, I think I want to read this. So yeah,
I mean, it
it
is a
it's a
really
summer read for me.
It does sound like it would be a really interesting story. It's very compelling. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
his entire life is very compelling, and then having that moment, um, just like up the ante,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And also, I don't, it wasn't Porter, it was another podcast, and they were just also talking about how he found love late in life. And I just want to hear, I just
Aw,
want to read the story. I'm very interested in learning more about him as a person. So I was like, oh,
I
listen's
don't
not going to
blame you.
believe this. I'm going to
I'm
drop down
interested.
real money on that one.
I know. Last time I bought a book full price, I'm disappointed by it. I'm looking at you, Hours,
Whoa.
down there on the
Yikes.
floor.
Yikes.
Hi, Merce.
Somebody on Pango's going to be happy about that one in the future.
Probably. I'm deciding if I want to torture myself by rereading it or not.
Whew.
Probably not. It's thick. It takes up a lot of room on the shelves. I've ran out
It
of room in the
does.
W's anyway.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, let's talk about uncomfortable books.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So I am the reason why everybody who did read The Discomfort of Evening was subjected to this. Because I just wanted
Mhm.
to talk to Naomi about it because I didn't have her to talk to when I first read this.
Mhm.
Um, so, and I always get the kids' names wrong. Do you want to start with your
Wait, did
thoughts?
you
You want to start with a little summary?
no, did you want to start with the author, what you had told me?
Oh, yes. So when we were making our lists, um, we were focusing on for this year mostly translated lit by women, and it came to my attention as I was researching this that the author no longer it seems goes by their Marika Lucas
Mhm.
Re- Reijneveld. I think I totally said that wrong. They are now just going by Lucas, and they were non-binary, but I feel like they are also including male pronouns as well. But so I guess I just wanted to say that um, we were not aware of this shift because I think when this was originally nominated for the Booker Prize,
Mhm.
uh, they had not announced or revealed that they were non-binary. So now, you know, we know, and I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
So everybody's aware.
Yeah.
Because also you'll see that in different editions, their first name comes off, so the Marika is no longer on the cover. So
Mhm.
depending on when you buy the book, how
Right.
old it is, you will see a name change. So we just wanted to like put that out there. Um, but yeah, but they are a poet, and they did win the Booker Prize, International Booker Prize, for The Discomfort of Evening,
Mhm.
and yeah, so
Their first
this is
novel.
this is a very well regarded novel. It's very good. The translation itself is excellent.
Mhm.
Um, but and it is somewhat maybe not autobiographical, but it is very much inspired by their life because they also are being our characters in Discomfort of Evening lose a brother, and that's kind of the setting of this. The setup of this whole thing is that then we watch a family go through grief. And attempting to like navigate their lives in the wake of all of this tragedy. And the author also lost their brother at a young age. And I was watching a video that the Booker Prize did at the time of the prize. I think this is the 2020 prize.
Mhm.
And the author was saying that they keep a picture of their brother on their desk when they're writing. And
Yeah.
when they write well, what did they say? When they write well, their brother smiles back at him, at them. And I thought that that
Mm.
was really just lovely.
Yeah.
This is
That's
always really
sweet,
lovely.
actually.
But it's very clear. Like I think that at the time they wanted to make it very clear that this family is not their family. But this is more of an exploration of the grief of losing somebody in a tragic way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Yes. So what is this about? You want me to do it?
Yes.
So this is about a family in. So this is translated from Dutch. So this is from a family of farmers. They are dairy farmers, predominantly in the Netherlands, and they are incredibly religious. There are four siblings. There's two boys and two girls. I can't remember everybody's name right off the bat here because it's been a little bit since I finished this. But anyway, so one day the eldest brother goes out to go ice skating. And the one daughter, who is our narrator, I think her name is Yaz or Jazz, she is really upset because she can't. I mean, her father has just told her that like he's gonna kill her bunny rabbit, and she's like making some deal with God to like spare the bunny rabbit. Her brother goes off to go ice skating. He ends up falling into the ice and dying. And then that just kicks off this spiral for the entire family.
Mm-hmm.
This is a family where God is incredibly dominant in their lives, but it's also in a very oppressive way. I feel like it's very suffocating, the religion in this. The farm and the cows are probably the most valued in terms of monetary, but also like sentimental. Like the cows are incredibly important to this family. The kids seem to have no real oversight, especially as the parents are grappling with their own grief. And they don't even get like good support in school or through their religious group. I just feel like they're kind of left adrift. And so these
Mm-hmm.
three young children each have their ways of trying to understand death. I mean, they're very young, and this is their first real touch point with death. Um, and then figure out the world around them, understand what's going on with their parents, because their parents sort of they fall apart.
Yeah.
Um,
They're
and
checking
our
out.
narrator, yeah, and our narrator is this young girl, and she's fallen apart. She is very depressed, incredibly depressed. Like she won't take her coat off. She like craves protection. Her older brother, who's left, is absolutely insane, um, and violent to animals. There's like sexual deviancy, like or just cruelty that pervades this. It's very coprophilic, like it's filled with mentions of buttholes, poop, all kinds of stuff. It is a very heavy novel, a very
Mm-hmm.
strange novel. And like the first time I read it, I couldn't even appreciate the exploration of grief because I was just so sideswiped by how disgusting this book is. Like there's so many
Mm-hmm.
scenes that are just so just churningly disgusting and vile. Uh, but the second time around, I can appreciate the look at the grief, but I just don't know if we needed so much poop
Yeah.
in doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You?
Heavy is a good word, but okay. So by the time I got to page 59, I wrote a little. I wrote a little note because there were so many mentions of urination and pee. I was like, is she being molested? Because that is like a sign. Um, and so I was very disturbed by what I thought was happening to her, and I was trying to figure out is is this a new thing that's been happening or has been happening all along? Um, and it also I also realized like no one's really handling this death of the brother very well. They're not really talking about it. Everyone, they're just kind of feeling whatever they're feeling, but like as a family there's no discussion to try to cope and to try to nurture each other through this tragedy. um and so I was very grossed out by all of the things that were happening with bodies, but also very sad because it's like when that grief has like nowhere to go, it's like what do you do? You're so young, you don't know how to live through the grief. And so you
Mm-mm.
start acting out in different ways, and you're talking, there's three kids left, right? Three kids
Yep.
left. They lost a brother. Mom and dad aren't talking about it. Mom and dad aren't getting them together to have a conversation about it. There seems to be no real nurturing from mom and dad to these children. They, I mean, if you didn't know anybody, you would think they were just some like sad foster kids, because it doesn't really feel like a family in the sense of there's security, there's some shred of happiness, there's some love, there's some nurturing, there's some caring. It seems to be very void of that. And then the whole thing with the mother not eating, it's like she's kind of withering away emotionally, physically. It's a lot going on.
There's a lot happening in that house. And there's
It's a
also a
lot.
question of like how we have to remember like the age of our narrator as well. So it's very I don't know what the right word is, nuanced, biased, skewed. There's a very like filtered, like the filter of this narrator is, I don't want to say unreliable, but it's maybe not the best. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
narrow, you know. So you have this, so I think that adds to the almost confusion of what's happening, because
Mm-hmm.
she
Because
doesn't
she's
understand what's
confused.
happening and she's telling
Exactly.
us about it. So like we're going
Right.
to be confused reading it. Um but I do think that like in the beginning, that scene when they're like at the table and they've got the bread and there's all this stuff and we're doing all these things, there is this sense of family, right? They're like, they leave his chair
Yeah.
empty, and then, you know, with that scene where the chair falls over,
Mm-hmm.
um and how angry everybody gets, there is this sense that there was once a family unit, like a
Sure.
real family
Absolutely.
unit. And
Yes,
we get very
absolutely.
little glimpse into that, but
Mhm.
and we spend the like 99% of the story in the disintegration of this family.
Yes.
Um, but I think that that makes it even sadder, is that there you have this little sliver of a glimpse of what they all may have been like if they had been
Right.
able to be happy.
Yep.
I mean, he
Yep.
dies around Christmas time. Christmas gets like kibosh, Christmas gone,
Mhm.
everything to the curb. You're a little kid and you're trying to understand the concept of death, the concept of loss.
Mhm.
Um, the you also probably very much like Christmas, or a certain, you know, the gatherings, the things about your life, like the normal churning of your life, that's all gone.
Right.
Um, it's a lot to take in the blink of an eye. And I believe even in the beginning, Jazz is like, or Yaz is like thinking that he's just going to come home.
Yes.
Like he'll just blink open his eyes. And
Right.
like the scene where she's watching her father break down around his coffin, I thought
Mhm.
that was like probably one of the most human scenes with him. That plus with the cows. I think he and the cows, everything with the cows, were the
Yeah.
times where he had the most um emotion and like
Mhm.
humanity. The rest of the time it was just like God talk
Y- Yeah, I
and
also did
putting
not
soap in
know this was
bums.
going to be such a religious
Hmm.
book. So that was interesting. Um
And the creepy priest man, or
yeah.
brother guy, or whatever the hell he was. Mm-mm.
Yeah. And these
Mm-mm.
kids are also trying to reconcile with the death of their brother, and in terms of religion as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost feel like the death of their brother scared them, um in a way of, I guess, like, not like death coming so fast and out of nowhere. I can
Yeah.
imagine that's very scary and terrifying for a young person. One minute my brother was here, the next he's gone. Now what do we do with that? Can that happen to me? Can that happen to my mom and dad? It's just, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
spurred a little bit of fear in them. And they're trying to get some kind of control over that, trying to stop that from happening again. And that whole thing with these various rituals is like really interesting, and what they were doing. Weird and interesting. But
I think that's.
I just thought, as a way of them trying to like get control over what happened. A very Something that was out of their control happened. They're trying to gain some control back.
I think that like the idea of death coming so quick. I think that's kind of why the scenes with the cows at the
Mm-hmm.
end, like the end parts of the book, um, are even more dramatic and shattering, because like these kids and this family, that was an accident, and now here they are, through again no fault of their own, having to endure the trauma of
Mm-hmm.
loss all over
Yeah.
again. This time they have to like do it at their own hands. They have to be participants in it,
Right.
and you've never healed any of your other wounds. Like that has
Mm-hmm.
to be like, I don't know, like rubbing salt into a wound, you
Right.
know? And
Yep.
then how are you supposed to survive? Like how this is, I mean, this is a family that in so many ways has almost everything stripped from them.
Yes.
Everything from by the end of the book, and it's very upsetting. I mean, I will say what some of the redeeming things about this book is the writing itself is incredibly poetic, and the author
Mm-hmm.
is a poet. I have some quotes in here, like "Death has its own coat hook" here, which I thought was beautiful. Um, Look, I don't know what love is, but I do know it makes you jump high, that it makes you able to swim more lengths, and that it makes you visible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like that's just heartbreaking, because I don't
Yeah.
think kids, maybe they can remember what it was like if they had a time where they had it, but I think it rapidly starts to fade. I mean, your
Yeah.
memories as a child are very short term. I mean, you're
Yes, they
constantly
are.
adding in, so you're losing things as you grow. And I think that they, if there was ever a time where they were happy, that rapidly is gone.
Wasn't there something I have so many pages like dog-eared,
Hmm.
but I haven't flagged them with like, so I know what they are yet. So I'm just kind of flipping through. But there was something where Yas had like said to Hannah, like, just pretend you're happy. And she was like, I almost forgot. I don't remember how to.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh,
it's
just those
heartbreaking. I
little
mean,
those little soul crushing moments are all throughout this book.
it's really heartbreaking. I've learned that the heavens aren't a wishing well, but a mass grave. I
Hmm.
mean, it is dark. I mean, it's almost too dark, I think, for the age of our narrator, but that's either a failing of the author, or it's just show that how quickly, even though like you're kind of stunted, you're also aging really quickly too, in
Yeah.
some other ways. So
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed it as an older reader. It was nice to read these really beautiful lines,
Hmm.
um, but it is often the thoughts that go through her head do feel overly mature for a child of the age that she's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I would agree. There's a part, page 134 and 135, and she's saying, um, I, I miss my parents even though I see them every day. And then a few
mhm.
lines down it says, Mom and Dad are there, but at the same time they aren't. And then the next page is like, the thing is, they're not drifting away from us, but we're drifting away from them. Promise me this will stay between us, dear Toads, but sometimes I wish I had different parents. Do you understand that? I continue. Parents like Belle's, who are as soft as shortbread just out of the oven and give her lots of cuddles when she's sad, frightened, or even very happy. Parents that chase away all the ghosts from under the bed, from inside your head, and run through a summary of the week with you every weekend, like I can't pronounce that name, does on TV. I mean, that's just like soul crushing, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much loneliness in there.
Mhm. So much. Um, and she seeks, so it's weird. It's like she can't find a lot of companionship, it seems, in her peers. I mean, she has Belle, but that gets ruined by her brother.
Mhm.
She has her sister Hannah. I mean, I guess she has her brother. The scene with Hannah and her brother is just, I don't want to
Oh,
know.
with the bottle thing and the tap, that was, yeah,
Um
that was something.
that was something. The soap is something. It's all something.
Yeah.
There's so much violation. I mean, and I guess like the trauma of loss is a violation to your body. I mean, like you are um connected with somebody and that gets ripped from you. Um but I don't know if we needed to explore bodily trauma in the way that we do here, to also explore how grief affects you, like, inside and out. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes. Okay, but so okay, because here's what I was thinking about, right? Like all the sexual things that should not be happening between these children. I just kept feeling like this can't be from the grief. This has had to been going on for some time. It did not feel new. It felt
No,
very
especially with Hannah and her brother, that felt like something that had happened many, many
right.
times. And
All of it.
I wonder if maybe our narrator wasn't aware of a lot of things because they were
Mm-hmm.
younger. I mean, Hannah's the
Right.
youngest, but they were younger. And perhaps they weren't aware of a lot of things.
Right.
And it does make me wonder, like, what was the older brother even like? Was he
I
like,
feel like she did something because I can't find it now, but she made a mention of something between her and the brother that died that made me say, wait a minute, was he molesting her?
yeah, because there's just like a lot
You
of
know?
darkness in this book. And like
Mm-hmm.
that man from the church that comes over and starts like flirting with her and just being absolutely inappropriate, and how there's nobody to protect them. I mean, they are so adrift in the world, like not even at school. Like the school is just obsessed with this idea that like she won't take her coat off. Well, like why is she not taking her coat off? Like can we
Right.
explore that? Like they
Yeah.
needed therapy, and there is no therapy to be found. There's only God, and God in this iteration is not helping anybody. It is only making everybody like more, I don't know, oppressed. Um,
Yeah. Did you did you get the feeling that the mother knew what was going on, because there was that scene where the dad was inserting the soap into her butthole, and
mhm.
she was basically saying that like her mother was like busy, like she was in the room, they were all in the room together, but the mother was like busy doing other things. And I was like, is this trying to tell me that the mother is aware of what's been happening, but she has made a choice to turn a blind eye to it all? That's the feeling that I was getting from that scene. I was wondering if you caught
I
that
mean,
and felt the same way.
I feel like either both parents are absolutely oblivious, or they are their eyes are wide fucking open and they don't care. Um,
Hmm.
and there's no in between. There's no like, I've misconstrued something. There's no like, oh, I just thought it was innocent. Like it was literally like you have like blinders on, or you are sort of a participant in everything. But like I also
Right.
like wonder, like, is the soap thing like, I don't know, like is the obviously the soap thing is a violation, and there is this, I don't know why she won't poop. I don't know why her constipation is such a huge piece of this. And like
Hmm.
with the soap thing, it's kind of like on this borderline for me where like yes, it's incredibly violating and like I'm totally uncomfortable with it, and like
Hmm.
absolutely freaking not. But also it's the kind of thing that like maybe is like an old wivesy thing that wouldn't be necessarily weird. I don't know. I don't know if it's like a thing that like if
Oh,
you,
it's definitely it's a thing. It's like
you
it's a
know,
country thing.
but
Yes, that's
then,
familiar to me.
and if it was just that, I think I could just be like, this is weird, but okay. But the fact that
Exactly.
it keeps escalating into other things is what has me just, uh, um,
Like when she says, sometimes when dad comes to wish me good night, he sticks his tongue in my ear. It's not as bad as the finger with green soap, but still, I don't know why he does it. Yeah. You know?
it is weird. I mean, I guess there's
Yeah,
weirder places for you to stick a tongue, but
right. So, yeah.
I mean, but I also guess that's part of the confusion of having a young narrator, right? Like they can't tell what's appropriate and inappropriate. They can just start to feel that they don't like certain things,
Mhm.
but it's my dad, it's my brother, it's this
Right.
family friend. And I think that's the danger of these kids being so adrift, right? Like they are open to being preyed on by almost anybody,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
is upsetting.
Yeah.
And like
It's
I don't know how to
scary.
feel about
Very scary.
it is very scary. And like I don't know how to feel about this book overall. I like is the writing at oftentimes incredibly beautiful and poetic. Yes, it does. Is the exploration of grief like compelling? Yes. But I just don't know if it needed to be so violent. I don't know if that was necessary or if you're overkill. It feels like overkill to me. But
I mean,
then
it was a lot. I mean, it's it was a lot. I yeah. I don't know.
I feel like it's too much, but then I think there's other people who have read this. I mean, obviously the Booker Prize loved it. But I feel like there's other people who've read it and they see that it's, violent and violating and traumatic, but it all is for some purpose, like they don't feel like it's too much. Um,
I'm not
and I
sure what
don't
the purpose
know.
is.
I don't know if we needed so like I feel like Freud would have a field day with this. Like there's
Oh
so much
yes.
anus, pee, poop,
Yes. Yes.
bums,
Yes.
bums.
Mhm.
All about
Mhm.
bums.
Yep.
And like the brother is like very much insane. This surviving brother, like he's banging his head on the wall and he does weird things to the kids and um he
Yeah.
violates strangers.
I mean, he feels like a predator.
He is a predator, and like who made
Yeah.
him a predator?
Right.
um did he come out like sociopathic? Did the brother trigger something? Was he always like this and now it's even worse because the trauma made it worse? I mean, I think there's things about this book. It's very hard for me to like rate this book because there's things like this where you and I can talk for ages about,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of things. And I think that's the sign of a really well written book, right? There's a lot of depth and a wealth of things. But I also just this kind of falls like Lolita for me. Like I don't want to like it.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Um. I guess I have not figured out how I feel about it.
Mhm.
I I j- I just don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm just I'm trying to figure things out here. I'm trying to understand how these things connect as a story and for this family. And I haven't really fully figured that out yet.
I will say that if one can stomach a a second read or a third read or just an additional read of this, I think you do get more on additional
Hmm.
readings. Um, but I don't know if it's necessarily worth it to do additional reads.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Like I
Yeah.
only subjected you to this because I really needed to talk to somebody about this stupid book. Uh, I think you can see why. Um,
Yeah.
but
I mean, it was a lot of head shaking when I was reading. So it was like, oh, hmm. Just I didn't know how to put my feelings where to put them sometimes. I was just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with what I just read on that page.
yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time just like this time around, just like highlighting all the things that have to do with bums. Um, just because I felt like it was a lot. And like when you start like highlighting it and highlighting it and highlighting it, you realize like how much of this story.
Yes.
It's not a very
Yeah.
long story. And I don't know if I don't know if there's like a psychology to all of this. I don't know if there's supposed to be a Freudian aspect of this. I don't. And I
I
tried to
definitely think
find
there's something missing for me.
it's what
There's something
something
missing for me. Like,
something
because
missing.
I'm trying to understand. Like I can fully see the grief part, and I can fully see like the sexual deviant part, and I'm trying to understand how they connect to each other.
Well, I think we need to know is when did this all start happening? Was it
Right,
always there and it escalated?
right,
Or is this a thing that occurred because of the trauma? I do think that that man from the church praying on Yaz is
yeah,
very much because of the trauma and because these
right.
parents aren't paying any attention to her, she is kind of like an easy to groom
Sure,
child.
absolutely,
But I
right,
don't know if everything else has that like easy to connect the dots trajectory.
right, right. Because again, for me, I felt like those things that were happening, that it's been happening for a long time. There
Hmm.
was like there was too much comfort in it. Like, this is just what happens. Even when she's talking about um how oh, when the other brother was doing things to her that the dad used to do, and she was like, I hope dad doesn't get mad that Obi's now taking this job. Like, it felt like these acts have been going on for quite a long time. And I suspect that the deceased brother was involved too.
Probably somehow. And I mean, and if this stems from the parents, I'm sure that all the kids and maybe only Hannah is in some way, because even Hannah gets it from her brother, but the behavior's learned somewhere. If it was always there, it was learned from something. But there is a quote
Yeah.
somewhere in here that it says that they say, discomfort is good, in discomfort we are real. So I
Hmm.
wonder if um, there is also a lot of use of this religion to cover up, or maybe not cover up, but like justify the suffering or the uncomfortableness, the discomfort, the things that these kids and this family kind of accept as okay behaviors, um, because insert whatever doctrine you want to
Right.
use to justify those behaviors. um,
Yeah.
because if the idea is that you should be suffering, I mean, because I know that like in general, I don't understand maybe necessarily the kind of Christianity that's in this book, but in general the idea of like um the human plane is a plane of suffering, and
Hmm.
you achieve uh you know um happiness and joy and all of the good things when
Yeah.
you ascend this plane and go to heaven. Like that's kind of a very generic
Right.
breakdown of Christianity. um and like if that's what these kids are working under, so like and now that there's this kind of this constant reinforcement that like you should be suffering,
Yeah.
um does that facilitate all these things happening to these people? Does this allow for the violence and the violation because they are told that they should be suffering? I don't know the
Mm.
answers to these questions. I'm just proposing them. But
Right.
um,
Yeah. And then there was also like all throughout the book that fear of like the father leaving the family. That was
mhm.
always so present too. Um I don't I don't know. I I don't know. This was a really interesting book. Really
It's
interesting.
definitely, I think, a good book club pick. I think there's a lot to go through. You
Mhm.
just have to have the right book club. Um,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
can't just bring this into like your mom's Wednesday night
Yeah, that's
wine
probably not a good
slash
idea.
book club.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably not going to go over well. Um,
Exactly.
but I wish I knew more about all of the questions we'd asked. Like,
Yes.
and I kind of wish I understood the author's relation to topics like religion. Are they from an incredibly pious family? Do they have um, interactions with that kind of group? Is this what is? I just feel like there's a lot to unpack. Um, especially knowing that there is a piece of this that is based in the author's like actual life, right? Like this isn't
Right.
their family, but these are circumstances. Like the setup is something that has happened to them. So I don't know how much I guess is drawn from real life and then jumbled up into this story.
Yeah. And again, like, what's up with all the buttholes? You know,
I don't know
she had that
why
moment with
there's
the
so much
cow.
butt.
Remember, she's like having the butthole action with the cow.
Naomi, the amount of butthole things. It is this book is about bums.
And
This book is all bums.
let me briefly go back to the dad putting the soap in her butt so that she can poop, right? The thing that makes that not okay is because what she's saying is like, dad does it every day, so I can poop every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like, you shouldn't be doing that every day. While that method may work, the fact that he does it every day makes me think that he's doing it for pleasure for himself.
Agreed. But it also sounds like she isn't pooping. So
Right.
is he doing it every day for that reason? Or is he doing it every day because this girl just won't poop? And I don't
Yeah.
know. And I don't think we'll ever really know
Right.
because I don't think our narrator even understands.
Right.
This is like the beauty and the frustration with a narrator like this is that
Mm-hmm.
you're only going to understand up until their own understanding, and then from that point forward you're limited. And so she is incredibly a limited narrator, right? Like she can
Yeah.
only express and understand so far into the world.
Because she could also not be pooping because she's being violated so much in her butthole, and that could be like
I mean,
a
she could just be
protection,
filled with soap. I don't know, Naomi.
you know, or that. It, yeah. Mm,
I'm
mm.
sorry that we made this a bum-filled episode.
It's totally a bum-filled episode. And I did feel, I felt really bad for the mother. I don't know. It's weird because I don't feel like we got a lot of the mother in this book. Like, she comes and goes. She doesn't seem very present throughout the pages, but I don't know. I kind of felt for her. I was like, is
I
she
think
gonna like take her life? She was
I
struggling
think
so
she
much.
was struggling with it. I mean, I think that's a lot of the
Yeah,
conversation around the noose and stuff in the attic.
yeah,
But I think the interesting thing about the mother is that is she the is she not present in every way but physicality, or is she not present? Period. Because I feel like she is there, but
mm-hmm,
she is not present to anything that's occurring.
right, yeah,
And then there also is some question about like, I mean, here, let's just throw this out on the limb. Perhaps the eldest son went to that particular spot in the lake where they never go to go ice skating, knowing full well that when the ice looks a certain way, you don't skate on it because he didn't want to be in this family anymore.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah, mm-hmm.
And we don't know that.
We don't know, but it's a possibility, and how the other siblings are always talking about, we have to escape this family and this village. What's
Mm-hmm.
the plan? We got to get out of here. It's time to
Mm-hmm.
activate the plan. We must go.
Well, I don't think the other brother is trying to activate any plans. I think he is just fully absorbed in his perversion. Um, but the sisters are like, got to get out of here. And
Mm-hmm.
I read this like they themselves wanted to kill themselves, and everything was like ending their own lives. That they were trying to find men, so like they clearly wanted a father figure. Um,
Yeah,
there's just so much like psychologically to unpack with this book.
there
So like
really is.
I don't know. Like so this is where like I waffle, and like this is where like for me I feel like this is like a solidly I have to put this in the middle of the road because I go both ways on this book. Just like Lolita, like I absolutely hate everything it makes me feel, but I love how well it makes me feel those things. Um
Yes, I totally understand that.
and like I want to rate it higher for like how well it's written, but I want to rate it lower because I hate everything that's written.
Yeah. Right.
It's such a weird book for me.
I love this line. Such a sad line when talking about the mom. It says, she's full of worries. There's no space left for anything else. That's just, I mean, like, I feel that. Like, that makes you just, it reminds you how full of sadness and loss that mother is filled with. It takes up all
And
the space.
I think it also shows you the capacity of children to understand things. They may not understand what they're understanding, if that makes any sense, but they are
Yep.
picking up on things that are going around them. And I think that we often don't give kids enough credit for
Yeah.
understanding the world around them.
Hmm.
And we can often leave them to deal with really difficult things because we just don't think that it's affecting them, when what they
Yeah.
really need is somebody to help frame the things that they're feeling and seeing and trying to interpret in a like a healthy and positive way. And obviously these kids don't have that. Um,
Right.
so they just descend into
Yeah.
just terribleness. I don't know how to. I will say the scene with the cows did remind me of oh god, what's it called? The Cattle and Men,
Hmm.
a lot. So I think that was giving me flashes of that book a bit. Just like the brutality of it all and the reliance on animals and the respect for the animals.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yep.
oh, I'm just remembering the
Whew.
scene with Bella. No,
Mm.
I feel like we probably should have said at the beginning that there's like 1,000 trigger warnings for this book.
Yeah. It's,
Just
yeah.
yeah, it's too late now,
I mean, we've
and
gone
we've only
all,
scratched the surface.
truly, truly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you have other thoughts,
I
or are we
just
just going to keep
just this little
circling?
passage. As I like this passage. I think about Matisse. Is this how he felt? Was his breath so abruptly cut off? Suddenly, I remember what the vet said when he fished my brother out of the water with Everston. When people have hypothermia, you have to handle them like porcelain. The smallest touch could be deadly. All this time, we've been so careful with Matisse that we don't even talk about him, so that he can't break into pieces inside our heads. I mean, I felt that. I
It's
felt that.
stunningly written.
Yeah. Yeah. There it is.
And you
The
can
discomfort
take
of
that
evening,
away from.
folks.
Yeah. Booker Prize winning. Discomfort, International Booker Prize winning. Discover New
I
Evening.
mean, I guess if you're just looking at, just the writing alone, I mean, I'm gonna have to go back to and see the long and short list for 2020, because now I'm curious, because I can't remember. And I want to just go back and see who was in the running. Um, yeah.
I mean, it's undeniably like the writing is phenomenal.
It is.
Um,
It is.
but at the
It is
same time,
discomforting.
I am very discomforted. My comfort is not existent.
Yeah,
Uh,
for
yeah.
sure.
So I guess if you also read this, let us know in the comments, or DM us, or just talk to us about it. I think we all need a group therapy session after
Come
reading
on our
this.
Discord.
Uh,
Come on our Discord and tell us what
yes,
you thought about it.
it could just be like emojis if that's all you have the capacity for after reading this. It's
Or some
okay.
gifts.
Yes,
Some
yes,
some
yes.
some gifts too.
Sometimes things can only be expressed in GIF.
Sometimes. Sometimes. I'm glad I read it.
Hmm.
So thank you for making this part of our annual community read. That was something. Yeah, it was something.
Thank you for reading it with
I
me.
wonder what they'll write next.
Yeah, I mean, they are poets, so I know they have a bunch of poetry collections, but I don't know if they have any other. I mean, it looks like there are two other novels on Wikipedia, but I don't know if either of them are. So it looks like there's one for 2000 this year. My Heavenly Favorite. That's translated by the same translator. This is Wikipedia, so if it's wrong, it's wrong. And then it looks like there was something that maybe isn't translated. The Grief of Siggy F. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
And then there's a bunch of poetry collections. I don't think that they are. Maybe they are. I don't know if they're translated to English. I think maybe a few poems are, but not whole collections.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll definitely read from this author again if they put out another novel. I'm very keen to read it to see what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, they're 33 years old. They were young. They were, yeah.
Yeah.
We got a long career in theory ahead of them.
Right.
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 So yeah, that's the Discomfort of Evening for anybody who wishes to brave it.
Yeah, there it is.
I will say that I don't think this is a book that, like, you know how people make lists of books that I can't recommend to people? I think this is on my list of books to not recommend to people. I would have to know you really well. I know I subjected a whole bunch of strangers on the internet to it, but like I would have to know you fairly well to suggest this book to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be a lot for some. Definitely probably not for those, what do they call them? Highly sensitive readers.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think a lot of people couldn't, there's a lot of mothers who couldn't read it. So
yeah,
just right off the bat, I think you're going to hit a wall there with a lot of mothers. I know a lot of mothers can't read things like that. Happening to children. But yeah. So just, I mean, look up some, if this wasn't enough for you to get an idea of how traumatic this might be as a read, give it a look. Look at the trigger warnings.
Give it a look. That's all we can say. Give it a look. I mean, I have got this book marked the heck up.
Yeah.
Between, you know, my various assertions and thoughts or whatever, and, you know, underlining things that I think are important for me to remember for the story, beautiful passages. Like there's a lot for me going on in this book.
Yeah, it's a weird book to like wrap your own head around, like what you read, how you feel about what you read.
Right.
It's a lot.
Because like I have so many questions that I'm like, does this mean that, or is the author trying to tell me that? You know, it's just like, because it wasn't just clear cut. You know, it really takes some, you know, removing the layers and layers and layers to kind of figure out what does this actually mean.
And I think that's beautiful. I think that's wonderful to have that in a book. But I just don't know if we needed all the bums.
So many bums. So many bums. Human bums and animal bums. Just a lot of bums.
Anyway, do you have a book recommendation that doesn't include bums?
Oh boy, do I. This is my recommendation to read more plays. Okay. I read this, I don't know, earlier this year, A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. Okay. First of all, incredible. What it must have felt like to see this play for the very first time, I can't imagine, and I'm jealous. I would have loved to have been in the audience to feast my eyes on this play for the very first time. Let me get these cast members right. So this is about an African-American family. All right. Okay, we've got, all right, this is the younger family. We've got the mother, who has just lost her husband. We've got her son, Walter Lee, and his wife, Ruth, his sister, Benitha, and his son, I think his name is George, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, though. And they're dealing with the grief of losing, you know, the father. But they are expecting an insurance check from his death. And each one of these family members has a very particular idea of what they should do with the money, right? They're all
Mhm.
living together in a small apartment. So look, we're getting ready to get some money. Like this could be like our way out. The mother wants to use some of the money to put Benita through medical school, her daughter,
Mhm.
and to set her grandson up. Walter wants to take the money and invest it in buying a liquor store. Okay. And Ruth just wants to like she's with the mom. They want to get a house. They want to get out the small apartment. They want to get out of this neighborhood. And so what you see really is like, everybody has hopes and dreams to aspire to do more, to be more, to have some level of comfort.
Mhm.
And you also see how Walter in particular, a black man who's married, who has a son, who's living in a home with mostly women, trying to like figure his way out, trying to figure out how to be a better man. It's almost like he's suffocating. And so when the opportunity comes to have this money, his deep, deep desire to get this liquor store so that he can be someone, to be a better man for himself and his family, weighs so heavily throughout this play. And we are met with all kind of things. Walter has a friend that is telling him like we can go into business together with this liquor store. That may or may not does not turn out well. I will not tell you. Read this play for yourself. But there are so many questions on like how does a family make it through and make it through where they still stick together. It is an absolute powerful and beautiful story, and so real for the time because it was just 1959. Like it was very timely as to what was going on in this play with this black family, as well as what's going on with black people like in the world during that time. I loved it. I think it's a must read. It's phenomenal. Highly recommend The Raisin and the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. I just want to read this one part.
Go for
It's
it.
a conversation between Mama and Walter, her son, and because he's always talking about money, and she's like, "Why are you always talking about money?" And he says, "Because everything is about money." And she says, "No, something has changed. You something new, boy. In my time, we was worried about not being lynched and getting to the north if we could, and how to stay alive and still have a pinch of dignity too. Now here you come, and Benitha, talk about things we ain't never even thought about, hardly, me and your daddy. You ain't satisfied or proud of nothing we done. I mean that you had a home, that we kept you out of trouble till you was grown, that you don't have to ride to work on the back of nobody's streetcar. You my children, but how different we done become." It's just so powerful. I mean, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. If anyone ever does this play again, and if I can get there, I'm going to go. It's wonderful. A Raisin in the Sun. What
It's
about you, ma'am?
been years since I've read that, by the way. Um, I have quite the stack of books to show you
Ooh.
because volume 6 comes out on Tuesday, and that's Lore Olympus.
Oh my.
um, I love this. It's a webtoon. It's a graphic novel. I have them on pre-order. It is
Oh my gosh.
slightly darker take on the Hades and Persephone myth, and by darker I mean that it's a little bit. I mean, it's not true to the myth because it's set in like a kind of modernish day sort of setting, but it is true to the myth in the sense that
Yeah.
it holds on that like that dark element, and it um has a like the whole pantheon of characters and gods and everything. So that part it's lovely, and I love the art style. Let me just pick one of these up. I love the art style of this. Like, let's find some really pretty like big full scale ones. And I just love their dynamic. Hades and Persephone, I think that they're beautiful. It's a beautiful relationship, and I don't know. And like I'm just we're nearing the end, and
Yeah.
I can't wait. But yeah, so it's like all in these like blues and
Oh my
blacks and
gosh.
pinks,
That's
and
beautiful.
it's really beautiful. And I just love it. I think that it's really fun. In the last one, uh, like she says in the back, because like sometimes there's stuff at the back that
Mm-hmm.
Rachel Smythe, who's the one who writes and draws this, she could spend like an entire like comic just watching Hades and Persephone walk through the underworld together, and
Mm.
I would eat that up. I would eat that up in a
Wow.
heartbeat. Because it's so lovely. Like some of these moments with them are just so touching. Um, I love it. So if you
That's
like
so
graphic novels, if you
fantastic.
like Hades and Persephone, Greek stuff, um, mythos, any of that, I would hit this up. It's a very beloved webtoon that I can't wait to. I'm upset. I'm really excited to get to the end of it. So I think we have. I think this year we'll get the final volume. I think it's 7 and 8 or 6 and 7. Maybe it's
Very
8. I don't know.
nice.
We're nearing the end. But yeah,
Very
I'm
nice.
very
I like
heavy.
it.
But yes, Laura
I like
Lucas.
it.
This is my little obsession. I love them very much.
I have so many
Very
bookish
different
obsessions right
from the
now.
Discomfort of
Yeah.
Evening.
Yes. Dare I say less
Mhm.
bumholes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, that was a great live. Listen, follow us everywhere at TBR Lowdown. Visit our website, tbrlowdown.com. Join our Discord. That link is also on the website. Let's see. Today is April 30th. Listen, let me just have a wild moment, folks. Okay.
Oh God, she's gonna say something crazy.
I'm gonna say something crazy, but just like go with it. Go with
I
it.
do
Okay.
every week.
Yeah. We all have various people in our lives, our lawn care people, the barista, your bank teller, your coworkers. Let's just recommend TBR Lowdown to 30 people. Okay. Let's aim high. Okay. As we exit April and enter into May, let's just aim high. 30 people. Okay. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Okay. That's what I'm gonna say. All right. Review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with 30 friends. Okay, that's gonna do it for us.
She
We
can
are
sing.
out of here. Bye.
Bye. I forgot that I have to do it.